sit next to me unless I'm viral. So we talked about being social. Will and I are going to have a little Q&A after his keynote here, and if you've got ideas or questions too, there are microphones in the area, or if you want to stand up and shout it out and your voice can carry, then I will happily repeat your question. I loved the Future Think conversation. In part, I don't know how many sci-fi geeks are out there, but I've been watching a show called Continuum, in which people actually travel back in time from the awful world, right, and come back to try and change it. I think that somebody from the future, and I would love other people to talk about this and get in line, but I think it's a lack of technology. I mean, not the lack of technology, but in the future, I don't think there'll be many people that touch a patient, particularly for the early incentives. I think telehealth will take over. I think we have states right now that don't allow you to prescribe without an in-person visit. 40 years from now, they'll be amazed at the number of human beings that they encounter in the first initial examinations and outreaches. I think that's in part the power of data. And I think we see that today, and I just would love your feedback on this, because more and more people are comfortable about talking to machines than they even are physicians or nurses in those early stations because they feel they have more time. I don't know if you see that in your worlds.
I think it's a great point, about the necessity of technology to facilitate and make more efficient the delivery of care. And I'd like to put a little twist to that, which is I think that there's a good deal more technology that needs to be available, but a good deal of transparent technology that will be made available to improve interactions, to improve connections between the care provider. You know, one of the great criticisms of EHRs was, you know, instead of talking to you as a patient, if I was a provider, suddenly I have a computer in front of me. And I think that we should not sacrifice the quality and the visceral nature of us as humans, in order to accommodate technology. Technology should be pervasive, but it should augment and support, the interactions that we have today. And a great example of this, I saw it came from, you know, the world of Disney. I actually visited the Disney Institute, which is the kind of the consulting arm behind them, and they took me on a tour and showed me how technology was utilized throughout the parks. And there's actually quite a bit of technology that actually facilitates your, well-being and happiness when you go through a Disney World, a Disneyland park, and it's all in the background. Because what they want to invest in is the quality of the interactions between the individual and the park staff, one another, and that joy and happiness bubbles forth, and they invest a great deal in technology. It's just not the focus of what they're trying to achieve. The focus is the quality of the interaction and the, continued happiness of their clients. And that manifests itself on a daily basis. And I would hope that we would have that same level of quality in healthcare in terms of the satisfaction and joy of patients. As long as it worked to improve clinical outcomes and wellness.
I mean, that's well, there'll always be a limit, I imagine, on the joy. I mean, the hospital is a place where the ill come, and there'll always be an issue on joy. But is there something from Disney technology you saw that isn't being applied in healthcare that you think could be immediately applied? The Disneys or the other big companies that have been leveraging technology far better than healthcare have.
Well, I think that they're masters of interaction. I think that a lot of technology is being deployed, but it's the quality interaction that takes place. When you're a patient, and I've witnessed this firsthand among some of my family members, it is very scary. You feel alone, and it's a very different world. I think the world of healthcare should help to improve that, not only when you're in the care setting, but when you're out of it, and help to augment and support the personal support structure of those who need care, and a lot of that comes through interactions, through maybe not face-to-face interactions, but speaking with, touching, reacting and communicating with other human beings.
You worked in the federal government, and you have lots of friends there, so I'm going to ask this question, maybe you'll lose some. If somebody were to come back from the future who worked in the federal government, say 50 years,
sure.
What Medicare or HHS policy would they be blown away that existed, that stood in the way would stand in the way of progress, right? I mean, Mad Men is the perfect example. You see things in Mad Men that blow you away like, I'd never happen. What's a federal government official from the future going to come back and look at and say, I cannot believe that they had that policy right here and right now?
Well, I think that a lot of the policies today are positive, okay? It's just the quality of how they're implemented, okay? How they respond in terms of customer service, okay, to innovators today. For those of you who are developing something, whether it be a mobile app or a new device or new technology, getting transparent information is very difficult sometimes, okay? It's excruciatingly difficult, and I acknowledge that, okay? In an effort to be fair to all parties, in an effort to, have objective review and going through methodical policies, one after the other, the timeline for innovation, especially with working with the federal government, becomes very, very, very long. And I have friends in the audience who know and agree with me that this is a challenge, getting something approved by the FDA. Okay, while everyone agrees it's a fair process, okay, but it's a long process, and no one can deny that. Okay, trying to wait for new rules to be developed, okay, is a very long process. Okay, and I've seen, quite a number of new policies and rules being reviewed and actually put into practice. And those were instantiated by legislation at the beginning of the term, in 2009. Okay, it's actually taken quite some time. We're trying to be more efficient, but I assume that there's quite a bit more work to be done there.
Well, I mean, a lot of conversations right now are around sustainable growth rate, as a way to subsidize Medicare. Obviously, there are organizations and institutions moving away from treating Medicare patients. Something I also wonder about in the future, if the access to your own data, the way that data is being applied as a have or have not scenario, if there isn't a restructuring of the way things are paid for or reimbursed or rewarded, when you look at the power of data and the ability to deliver personalized healthcare, to deliver more information to you about your body and remind you. Do you worry about that? I mean, do you worry that there has to be a financial incentive to keep it equal, or else you will see this disproportionate? I mean, the disenfranchised now have problems accessing healthcare.
I think you make some really, really great points. Okay, and I agree with you that information can be used by bad actors. It can be used to nefarious purposes. And what concerns me if the safeguards aren't in place. Okay, first of all, ensuring privacy and security is paramount. Okay, in terms of maintaining a level of trust around the data. That being said, I feel that there also is an effort within the government to increase the amount of interoperability so that we don't create these silos of data. Okay, and that there aren't imperfect markets being created as a byproduct of that. Okay, if you don't allow physicians access to their own data via the technology, okay, I think that's a problem. Okay, I'm not begrudging anyone to have a sustainable business model. Okay, and I think that's a very worthy thing, but also making sure that it's a level playing field for those who wish to newly innovate into the field. Okay, and take advantage of resources, many of which are publicly funded resources, okay, or being created as a result of publicly funded resources, is something that I think that we should always have access to. Hence the efforts around Datapalooza, hence the efforts around interoperability and really ensuring that proper business practices take place. Okay, will it be a fast process? Okay, but I think that is the kind of the guiding principle behind a lot of this work, and you'll see it reflected in the activities of a lot of my former colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've probably doted a lot on regulation, but data is very valuable, almost a competitive advantage for research institutions and hospitals.
Sure.
I mean, is the issue control? I mean, in the end, I think that many of the tech companies today, the Intels, the Dells, the IBMs, the Microsofts, many others, they probably have technology that could advance medicine faster, but health systems don't want to give up that information. They don't want to give up the data because they have control over it, and they worry. I think that's an endemic problem in healthcare overall, but controlling data means controlling power, or having advantages, or controlling the narrative, and so it would seem like how do you pry, or how do you convince a health system that give it up?
I think that's a great question. Okay, in balancing the opportunities and rights of businesses with the social need of care delivery, I think that one of the elegant ways that the federal government has tried to create opportunity is by fostering a marketplace. Okay, really incentivizing different types of reimbursement, incentivizing collaboration. The ACOs are a great example. True, they're very early in development, but having policies that foster working with one another, allowing new business models to be generated, okay, is a great way to encourage sharing of data, encourage the release of that information to the parties that need it the most. Okay, and I think that there's in my mind opportunities for businesses, policy, and the social need of care delivery to coexist, and we must adhere to kind of the spirit of the principles by which we function as a nation. Okay, so that's really my personal perspective on this.
Do we have a question in the audience? Yes.
Yes. My name is David Craze. One thing I want to make a comment about the data. I think that the data is the raw material to have some of this innovation happen, but I think we have iterations to go before that truly reaps benefit.
Amen.
You look at the genome was mapped 13 years ago, and it was supposed to introduce personalized medicine in a few years. And here we are 13 years later, and we really still don't have it. We have Herceptin and some things like that, but we really don't have true personalized medicine across the board. So, and that was sort of an unleashing of data from the life science mindset. But so I think we have one issue there. But last night I had dinner with a founder of ACO, and I'm serving on that board. We're going to be serving on that board. And they started off in churches, 4,000 churches. They used to see as many as 200,000 people a day, medical delivered social services. And so they were evolving into an ACO and moving in from that mindset. But one of the characteristics of where do we introduce technology, where do we put all these different paradigms in, is we're going through the traditional silos. You have the hospitals and the physician, this is physician-owned ACO, but you have the hospitals and physicians looking at the ACO model. We have patient-centered medical home, but it looks like we're not really looking at the disruptive change that could come from the organizational dynamic of how healthcare is delivered. More on telemedicine, more on worksite wellness centers, the retail clinics, all these other shifts, and that's where it seems where you'd really be able to utilize this enabling technology to try and introduce this through traditional primary care practices or hospital-owned ACOs. It seems to me that it's at risk of going through the paradigm of the 90s, where you have the mindset of health maintenance organizations that became capitated care, corporate care, and it folded by 98. What are your thoughts about that? What organizational shifts do you see that could really allow us to really facilitate change with all of these new innovations?
Sure. Well, so I certainly thank you for that comment and question, because in my mind, to you, innovation isn't happening fast enough. Okay, we're seeing the federal government, okay, for the first time has funded new reimbursement models en masse, okay, trying to seed all of these experiments, okay? And I agree with you, they might not be as disruptive as one might like, okay? But it's a very large step in a very positive direction. And what I'm seeing in terms of the strategic plans for a lot of these new ACOs, especially the physician-led ACOs, okay, is that they're being very creative in terms of the care delivery. We must safeguard the the safety and health, okay, of the various populations. But I think we're gradually moving in the right direction. So I agree with you. Innovation may not move as fast as we want it to, okay, and we can, certainly try a lot of different ways. But when we're talking about bearing risks, especially clinical risks on a population level, I think that we need to move very methodically.
We're going to take 3 more questions. I know somebody has a microphone here. We have someone there and a gentleman up front. Did you want to ask a question? So, go ahead.
Hi there, Wil. It's Kathy Kenyon.
Hello. Good to see you.
Hi there. What you may not, I worked at ONC, and that's the reason that I know Wil, but what you may not have known about me is that I am a family caregiver. My parents are 89 and 86 and live in an independent living place right up the street. I have 25 years as a healthcare lawyer, 3 years at ONC. What I will say, is, and this is an observation that I'd like you to react to, given your list of the need for culture change, because right now I'm basically a highly informed, very angry family caregiver.
Bless you.
The biggest challenges I face, I'm not sure you fully captured in that list. The first is the provider culture is truly terrible. And I have these are caring doctors, but their notion is that patient engagement means that my parents do what they tell them to do, and that I am supposed to carry that out. I don't know entirely how you, and by the way, that there's an implicit threat in that if you challenge them, that they may not see you. So this is a serious problem.
Sure.
It is one that technology, I think, can help address. So I'm right up the street. Doctors are with GW Medical Faculty Associates. Wonderful doctors, good integrated group, has Allscripts. Terrible technology. I do not know that, I'm not blaming Allscripts, but, absolutely horrible patient portal.
Well, let me try and kind of comment on that. Okay.
And so somehow we have to build a technology and have the providers adopt it and use it to really help family caregivers engage with, the providers engage with the family caregivers.
Sure.
It's not happening right now.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the work that you've done, and I really enjoyed working with you at ONC. The observation that you made that cultural change is required on all parts, especially care providers, I would agree with. Okay, I would say that it happens. It happens maybe not as dramatically as one hoped, but it happens. Okay, if you went back and looked at how surgery was performed or patient interactions at the turn of the century, okay, you'd see that it's vastly different from what we have today. Okay, and I agree with you that technology can be a strong catalyst, but it's only part of the solution. It requires really changing one's mindset and beliefs around this. Some of the issues that we've seen shift dramatically, concepts of patient autonomy, okay, and paternalism, have shifted significantly, especially in urban centers over the last 10, 15 years alone. And I think that continued work, especially amongst those who educate physicians, will be achieved over the next few decades. Okay, that's the best way I can answer it without being a physician myself. Okay, thank you, Kenyon. Kathy?
That was spectacular. I wanted to talk to you about the fact that I love the fact that both of you are science fiction fans. Now that means you've been living in the future for already 2 or 3 decades, which is spectacular. So you're able to understand a lot of this stuff, and it's just great. But one of the things I was noticing when Wil was speaking is I lived through the process you were describing for the most part, and you learned about it through Mad Men, okay? So to get culture shift, we need media involved, we need artists involved, and we need singers involved, and I want to know what you're doing to make that happen.
Well, thank you. Okay, this is a very good point. When I was at the federal government, we instituted a very open process for increasing the level of innovation, especially design innovation. Okay, we were the first office in the federal government to initiate prizes and challenges under the American Competes Act. Okay, we brought in folks from diverse stakeholders to engage in conversation. When we had a games and healthcare summit at the White House, a lot of artists were brought in to talk about how that can really change, patient experience, provider experience, and those who were trying to understand the landscape. So I think it starts with conversations. It starts with being in diverse and very strategic, conversations that involve those who would design, those who would communicate, those who would show the beauty and elegance behind care delivery. Okay? And I think that conversations that diluted those interactions down to transactions and mechanical levels, and some of the technology conferences I see really are moving in the opposite direction. So thank you for your comment. I certainly agree with it. Okay.
And we've run over, so I'm going to give the opportunity. Wil is going to be here for all 2 days. Please engage with him in multiple forums, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Great start.
Yes.
Ladies